Yep.
Okay. I already forgot how to give it back.
You can right-click on my name and I'll take it. I think I'm hosting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Excellent. I'm going to share my screen as well.
Uh-oh.
It's not happy with me at the moment. One second. Hannah, I'm going to make you host.
Okay.
Actually, I think I have better luck sharing my PDF when you're the host, so I'm going to give it back to you. Any reason why I shouldn't? Should I give it to Kim?
Yeah, just give
I'll
it
give
to me.
Kim.
Kim's gonna host, renaming people.
Yeah, I will make you. There. I'll still share my screen. I just got to, I don't, for some reason the PDF doesn't want to share, so I want to make sure that it does.
Oh, whoops, sorry guys, you can probably hear all that.
I see folks are joining us. Good afternoon. We're gonna go ahead and start just in a moment.
Anna.
Welcome, folks. Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead and rename yourself. Instructions are on the screen. And please stay unmuted. We're going to go ahead and start in about 2 minutes. Hello and welcome. As you're joining us, please go ahead and mute yourself. Renaming instructions are on the screen. We're going to go ahead and start in just about 1 minute. Okay, well, my clock says it's 3 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, steering committee members, CAR and Air District staff. Welcome, our guests, members of the public. My name is Hannah. I am part of the facilitation team with the Institute for Local Government, a nonprofit that has been around for about 60 years. My colleagues are with me today, Erica Manuel and Kim Benka. I think they're waving their hands at you right now. If you have any Zoom technical questions, please reach out to Kim via chat. use the private chat messaging to ask any questions, and we will try to troubleshoot in real time. Right now, you're seeing instructions on the screen to rename yourself. Please do so. And if my colleague Kim will help you to rename yourself as well. Let's go over Spanish translation first. Make sure to ensure that our Spanish-speaking participants are all set. I'm going to provide instructions in English, and I believe Anna will provide instructions in Spanish. To join the Spanish-speaking channel, on the bottom of the screen, you're going to click on Interpretation Globe. You're going to see English and Spanish channels pop up, and click on Spanish channel. Anna? Do you want to provide this instruction in Spanish?
Sorry about that. Yeah. A las personas que entraron al Zoom y si no están en el canal en español, por favor, escojan el globo que está hacia abajo, que dice interpretación en inglés. Hágale clic ahí y escojan el español.
Okay, let's just take 1 minute to make sure our Spanish-speaking participants and translators are all set before we continue with the agenda review and the rest of the meeting. And I'm looking at Heather or Anna or our translators to give me a thumb up to make sure we are good to go.
It sounds like the phone line is working and the interpretation on Spanish is working as well.
Do you know if we have anyone on the line?
I think I saw Annabelle.
I see her as well.
Okay. It seems like we're good to go.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, what we're doing today, let's review our agenda. We have a busy agenda today and several guest speakers. We're gonna start with committee stipends updates. We're gonna hear from Ryan. Then we're gonna move to standing updates, where we're gonna hear from the district and the Department of Pesticides, updates on monitoring plan, updates on subcommittee, and updates on pesticides measures. Then we're going to spend a big chunk of this meeting, sharing, learning from our partners, from our guest speakers about solar and energy efficiency programs, what programs exist, how community can be involved, and how can we increase participation. As you guys know, solar and energy efficiency is one of the SERP measures, and we want to ensure that this portion of the SERP is moving forward as desired. And then we're going to wrap up this meeting by learning about measure trackers, SERP measure trackers. The area district works very hard to put a tracker together. So at any point of time, you can go online and double check where we are with the SERP measures, what has been done, what types of presentations have been delivered, what are the next steps. So in this way, we keep you informed and updated, because there are a lot of SERP measures and it's easy to get lost sometimes. And then we're going to wrap up with a public comment section and next steps. And as a lot of you know, this agenda has been put together with feedback from the committee members. So thank you to those members who provided the feedback, and we really want to hear from you what other agenda items you would like to see moving forward. And as always, we continue to refine this meeting, and we really appreciate your feedback and any suggestions. How can we do better? Okay, with that, I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Erica, who is going to go over Zoom controls and Zoom etiquette.
Thank you, Hannah. Hopefully everyone can hear me. We have done a few of these meetings now, so we're certainly not new to this, but we may have some new people on the line. So we want to make sure to give you a quick reminder about our virtual meeting etiquette, especially for members of the public who may be new to this process. So as you might have seen on the first slide, please make sure that your screen name includes your first name, your last name, and if you are a CSC member, a member of the public, or a member of some other organization, please feel free to note that with just a dash and what that initial is. We would love to make sure that we have a proper roll call in this meeting, and we will use the screen names to denote that in the transcript. District and CARP members, please do so as well. And if you have any challenges, please contact my colleague Kim or myself, and we'll rename you directly. If you are on the phone or otherwise unable to change your screen name, please do that as well. As Hannah mentioned, please do stay on mute unless you are speaking or planning to speak. And you can raise your blue hand as denoted on the screen to ask a question during the presentation. So if you want to find your blue hand, you can click on the participants button on the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen, wherever your Zoom control panel is, and it will show you how to find your blue hand. Please use the chat box to communicate any questions or make any comments or indicate any requests that you would like captured that is not specific to the agenda items tonight. And then as a friendly reminder, the chat function is not completely private. Even one-on-one messages will be reflected in the chat transcript, so please do be respectful in the chat. And then the last thing we want to make sure you know is that if you're using two devices, if you're using your cell phone for audio and maybe some other device like a tablet or a laptop, and you've got two accounts, you can link them by pressing pound in your participant number to connect your audio and your video. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on Facebook. And if you have any technical difficulties throughout the meeting, just reach out to Kim or myself. And then one thing that we are seeing a number of people are wondering about is the roll call. We've gone through a couple different types of roll call through this meeting virtually, and we're going to skip the verbal roll call portion of this meeting, but please do make sure that you actively rename yourself so that we can track your attendance and participation in the attendance log. For CSC members, please make sure that your screen name clearly says your first name and your last name and whether you're a member of the CSC. And this is important because as we continue to explore the possibility of stipends, this renaming process is incredibly important, and Ryan is going to talk about that in more detail in just a few minutes. So if you would like to see who's on the line today, feel free to use that participants tab, and you can scroll through everyone's name to see who's joined us today. We have a pretty great group of over 40 people. And I'm going to work with my colleague Kim over the next few minutes to track anybody that's on the phone that might need some help renaming. I see at least 2 or 3 numbers that might need to be renamed. We definitely want to make sure all the CSC members get tracked today for their attendance. With that, I will pass it on to Ryan.
Thank you so much, Erica. Good afternoon, everybody. Ryan Hayashi, Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer here at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Want to thank everybody who's on the Zoom meeting tonight for their continued and ongoing support of the program, and for the benefit of everybody in the Shafter community, and hopefully have some good news for everyone or the resident members in regards to stipends, which has been a topic of conversation at many of the meetings. Dating back to earlier this year, it was raised as a concern that there were some other committees that were receiving this throughout the state and not in the Shafter community. Once that issue was raised, this was an issue that we did immediately have conversations with the California Resources Board about, as that the AB 617 is a statewide program, and yeah, wanting it to the guidance to be coming from the state in the path for that, and trying to build consistency and ensuring the success of it overall. However, once it became apparent that the ARB was not going to be able to find a path to provide stipends to community steering committee members throughout the state, I'm very thankful to have an APCO, an air pollution control officer like Samir, who immediately had us work on a process in which case the district could step in and fill that void. And so through that process, and we were able to hopefully find a pathway to provide stipends to the resident members of the community steering committee So those members who are designated as residents, members of the committee, would look to pay them a stipend for their participation in the meetings. And so I have just some general outline of what that process would look like. And I'm going to go over that really quickly. So the stipend, as I mentioned, would be for the resident members of the steering committee. The amount would be $75 per meeting of the actual steering committee meeting, not including subcommittee meetings, up to 15 meetings per year, which is equivalent to $1,125 per calendar year. And we've mentioned this in the past. It is still subject to the availability of AB 617 funding on an annual basis for that. Another thing that has come up was retroactivity. Would the district be able to provide stipends retroactively? So we did go back and we evaluated it. We believe there's a possibility. We believe that we can find a path to provide the funding going back to January of this year. And the other requirement would be participation in the meetings. And so we did set up a minimum participation, which is that to qualify for the stipend, that any member or resident member would have to be on the meeting or in attendance for the meeting for at least 75% of it. So if it was a 2-hour meeting, then the expectation would be that the individual that would request and receive a stipend would be there for at least an hour and a half of the meeting. The way that, so the stipends are not mandatory. It is a voluntary process. And so anybody that wishes to receive a stipend would work with ILG, the Institute for Local Government, Hannah and Erica. They are the ones that are ultimately going to have agreed very graciously to step into the role and provide the means to provide the stipends to the requesting resident members of the steering committee. And there will be an application and some other paperwork that needs to be filled out for that. And then lastly, when would you expect to receive the stipend? And once again, thank you ILG. They've committed to providing the stipends within 30 days of the steering committee. And so at a real high level, that's is the process that we would use. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Good news about the stipend. Just moving forward. Yes, I know this committee has been asking for the stipend for a very long time. And we did say, we hear you, and we're working on this. And finally, it's moving forward. What questions do you have at this point? Please go ahead and raise your hand. Raise your full hand. We're going to unmute you. What questions do you have for the air district about the stipend?
There was one issue, Erica, that Bianca raised, which was, and I've noticed in the chat, was some of the resident members like to get together and so wanting to make sure that they would be counted. And so they have included the names of the people that are participating together. And want to make sure that we have that documented.
We do see that in the chat. Thank you. And we will we'll try and go through retroactive chats as well and do our best to make sure that people flag that. Moving forward, we'll try and always ask as well if there's people that are grouped together, if they can make some kind of notation. We're going to refine, I think, the attendance process, but this is a good starting point, certainly. And then obviously, as we continue to rename any individual phone numbers, we'll do that as well. One thing we might be able to do too, if everybody's with Bianca, we might be able to add, we might be able to put that actually in your name. So we'll do that too when we rename you, Bianca.
Gustavo, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. My only question is kind of like a clarifying question. what would the resident as a member of CSC need to do procedural wise to kind of trigger this, or is it going to be automatic?
Sure.
Yeah.
Good question, Gus. So the next step for this is we still have to go to our board for approval, basically of the kind of overview that we provided. That's going to happen at our governing board meeting this month on August 20th. And after that time, then we'll if it is approved, which then we would work with ILG to notify all the resident members. If they are interested, they just need to contact ILG, and then they will work with them to get the necessary paperwork to make that happen.
Okay.
And I should say also, thank Gustavo and Bianca and the residents who I know this is working very hard on this issue.
No, this is all you guys, man. We're just trying to help you all out. And then another question, kind of obvious one maybe for you all, but the same list that will be used to qualify residents is the same charter that's online, right? It's just the charter that's online, and then thinking about over time folks that have alternates as well, and so just kind of keeping all that, making sure that all that's tracked, right? And all
yes. That. So that's another good point, Gustavo. As far as alternates, I'm not sure if do we have any resident alternates on the chapter?
Yeah. So for one very particular example is Esperanza, who was with us, for all of 2019, and then the first two meetings in 2020, and then actually moved over to Stockton. And then in her place, I believe it was a niece of hers, Marta, who has attended, I believe, since April. And she's also one of the recipients of the technology grant that was part of that. Yeah.
So as far as alternates, they would qualify whenever they're filling in for the primary member. Okay. There is no limitation. I mean, if someone wanted to participate as a full member of the steering committee and be eligible to receive that stipend, they could request to do that. Our understanding is the alternate members are people that are interested, want to take part in the process, but maybe don't have the time to fully commit to being a participant, and would look to fill in for other resident members when they're unavailable. And so that was kind of why we went about the approach that we did with the alternates receiving that stipend when the primary members are not in attendance.
Okay. And so in this case, I believe Marta is actually going to completely, take the place of Esperanza. Okay. And so, however that works out, we'd be happy to connect you.
Yeah, and we could work with her on what her official role on the committee is. It sounds like she's more of just a resident member of the committee as opposed to an alternate member.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Gustavo, if you talk to Martha, or if Martha's actually on the call, we still technically need an application for her. Just to have it, because a little bit of background paperwork is going to become more important as we start paying people money.
Yeah, and I think that's on me, but I think she has it filled out already. I just haven't collected that, so I will do my part to get that to you guys.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Jamie, can you send it to me too, just in case if I do a little round to Shafter, I'll have her fill it out and I'll just send it over.
That would be great. We will send the application out to both you and Gustavo, Bianca.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo, for the questions, right? Any other questions from the committee members before we move on to the next agenda item? Our Spanish-speaking participants, any questions from you guys?
They're having some difficulties, but they're transferring to the Spanish station. If you could give them a couple minutes.
Thanks, Bianca. Let's give them a couple minutes before we move on.
while we do that, we can rename a couple people. Bianca, are the 3 people that you referenced actually with you, or are they on another account that's also shown here?
They're not with me, but I was trying to guide them to get on in the actual Zoom.
Okay.
But I didn't know that you were supposed to call in to get into the Spanish version. So I actually sent it over right now. I'm pretty sure they should be connecting not in a couple minutes, or maybe.
No problem. No problem. We'll look for them.
And we do have just so to clarify, we do have the 2 options for Spanish. So they can go on the Spanish channel within the Zoom, but it sounds like they were having a difficult time doing that. The phone number that's listed on the screen right now is just the backup if folks have trouble getting into the Zoom.
Yeah, I just referred them back to the phone number, so I just send it over to the phone.
And I
But I do know that the 3 ladies are together. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I do
No
see
problem.
Annabelle on, so I'm wondering if maybe they're all participating under Annabelle then?
Looks like Annabelle. Yep, I see her. I'll wait until the Spanish line is fixed before I rename her, just in case she gets dropped or something.
And Bianca, will you give us a heads up when they're all set? Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Zoom seems easy, but sometimes it's not that easy. It really depends. Okay, I see the message from Anna that Annabelle and other ladies are on the phone right now.
Great.
Are we good to go?
I think we are.
Excellent. Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is standing updates. Again, per your suggestion, what we've heard from the committee members, we are sharing the standing updates at the beginning of the meetings, and we will take 1 or 2 questions after each update. We're going to start with the Air District, who will provide updates on monitoring plans and subcommittee updates, and then we're going to move on to Department of Pesticide Regulations. And we will hear update on notifications and monitoring measures. And with that, I'm passing it to Air District, either Chai or Brad.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'll do it. My name is Chai Tao. I'm the program manager of air monitoring at the Air District, and good to see everybody here today. I'm going to give you just a very brief update on air monitoring. There was some interest in understanding the ozone trends and also the mobile air monitoring to see what we've collected so far. So I'll go over that, and let me see if I can share my screen here. All right, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so just really a brief update on what we're still doing. Of course, we're still conducting the localized air monitoring here in the Shafter community. And it's been a while. It's been difficult getting contracts to install air monitors at the school, but we've actually gained some traction, and it's going to be tonight at 6 o'clock. The Richland School District Governing Board will review and approve. Will review to approve our plan to install the air monitors at both Golden Oak Elementary and Sequoia Elementary. In addition to that, the lease agreement has been sent off to North Shafter Migrant Labor Center for final signature onto that. So hopefully those will go through, and we'll get that process going and get those monitors installed. And in the meantime, we are using our air monitoring van to also monitor within these areas. In addition to the other areas that we've identified, or that you as a steering committee have identified that you would be interested in us measuring. And we're still doing our PM25 and VOC speciation, and that's been conducted since 2019. And also one more item in here that I didn't put into here, but there was a request to install PM10 monitoring at the DMV location, and that has been brought in. I think it's about like 2 or 3 weeks now. So that's been installed. We're still trying to figure out how to get that data so that we can get that data going live into our website, because currently the way that it's designed is that it gets sent off to straight to a carb system, and then it gets stored over there. So we like to have some way to get that live data and come to route it straight to our website so that all of you can be able to access that and see all that data. So as far as ozone is concerned, what we did is we compared the ozone and Shafter, which is our monitor. It's at the DMV site. And so we compared that to the nearby areas. One is in Bakersfield, California site. The other one is at the Bakersfield Municipal Airport site, and another one is at Oildale. And all of those are basically southeast of the Shafter site. And for both the 2019 and 2020 within the ozone season, what we're finding is that it's fairly consistent between all those areas. And so I'll show you the charts up next here. As you can see here, they're all pretty close together for all those 4 sites. And you can see Shafter here is following along, right along with those. And all below 90 here, some above, a little bit above 80 at some points here during these peak ozone season. And for 2020, between May and August, again, you'll see that these are very, very consistent between all these 4 sites. And just one peak above the 80 in May here, but everything else below that or below 80 parts per billion. And so next here, I'd like to talk about the mobile air monitoring activities here. As you can see here, the mobile sites, as according to our discussions and to what the steering committee had wanted, there's these 4 mobile sites here, the A, B, C, and D sites here. And then here we also have the Sequoia Elementary, the Farm Labor Center here, Golden Oak Elementary, and Grimway, and then of course Shafter DMV. So currently we have Grimway and Shafter DMV, the air monitors there have been operating. And in the meantime here, while we're still working to get the approval for Sequoia Elementary and Golden Oak and Farm Labor Center, we've been using the vans at these sites. And so we've been able to pretty much get the majority of these sites hit, almost all of them. The only one is site A here. Utilizing this, our available resources, we've been focusing majority of that to try to get the Farm Labor Center and Sequoia Elementary. These are the sites that are within the community. So we focus on that until we can get these done, and then we'll spend a little bit more time to make sure that we get a little bit more of the site A here. But B, C, and D, we're still getting all of those through our band monitor here. And so just a brief summary of the van monitoring. We've been doing that since January of 2020. And here's just a really brief overview of all of that. PM2.5, the readings that we've been seeing is no higher than, the highest is at 60 micrograms per cubic meter, well below the 35 microgram standard. Ozone, the highest that we've seen is 64 parts per billion. That's still below the 70 parts per billion standard. CO 0.4 ppm, below 35. NO2, 37 parts per billion, below the 100 parts per billion standard. SO2, 3.1 billion parts per billion, and that's below the 75 parts per billion standard. And so far, we have not really detected any measurable BTAX emissions at the locations that we've been measuring with the air monitoring van here. And so I'm going to go through each of those locations. Just some of the primary pollutants here, the NO2, the ozone, and the PM2.5. And so what we've done here is basically, because each time that we go, it's basically maybe 3 or 4 hours there. So as you can see here, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so this segment represents the March 31st, and then this segment over here represents April 16th. And as you can see here, NO2 is pretty low. I mean, if we compare it to the standard of 100 parts per billion here. at the North Shafter Farm Labor Center. And then ozone here, you can see here, this is on April 16th, and so still well below the 70 parts per billion. And as far as PM2.5, on both of these days, well below the 35 micrograms and pretty much below 10 micrograms. Golden Oak Elementary, it's a very, very similar story here. We measured during March 11th, April 9th, and 23rd, May 20th, and June 25th. And as you can see here, NO2 is still extremely low here. With the ozone, as you can see, it's climbing up as we get into the high ozone peak periods, especially towards the June here, as you can see it climbing up. But we're still below the ozone standard of 70 parts per billion. And PM2.5 again still fairly low here at Golden Oak Elementary here, below the 10 micrograms. Sequoia Elementary, very similar story here, April 23rd, May 14th, June 25th, very low NO2. Yeah, we have ozone that's slowly creeping up here, but still below the standard. And same thing for PM2.5 as well here. And then Site B, which is the West Side Dairies location, again, very similar story here, very low NO2. We have ozone that's climbing up here and peaked a little bit here as well, but still below the 70 parts per billion. And PM2.5, still pretty low. One time here where we get to the 10, but it's still below 35 microgram standard. Site C, which is by the airport industrial area there, NO2 is pretty low. Ozone, still below the 70 parts per billion. And PM2.5 still pretty low, below the 10 micrograms here. And this was done in April and May here. Mexican colony, very much the same thing here, very low NO2. And then we have ozone as well. This was done March, April, June, and July. And you can see the ozone spiking up a little bit up here, but still below the 70 parts per billion standard. And same thing for PM2.5. And so those are just a brief summary of the readings. And what we're going to do is similar to our quarterly report. All of this and much more detail will be in the quarterly upcoming quarterly report for the second quarter. So we'll be getting that out hopefully in a few more weeks. And we understand that that right now the website does not have all of the information onto there. And so one of our thoughts is that we're looking to put in similar to like a map like this. This is kind of a mock-up, and to see if you have any further input and on how to do this, or any other ways that would be easier for you to look at some of this data, is to basically have a map here with all the different locations, and then you can click on each of these locations that we've gone to, and once you click onto that, we'll show all the data here with the charts and graphs for everybody to see. So. We're working on this process here to hopefully make it easier for everybody to access the data. And that concludes my update here. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Chai, for providing a very detailed graph. I know you've been asking, the committee have been asking for this data, and it's very helpful to see graphs and data and updates. So we have, I see two hands, one from Tom, then from Gustavo. Tom, please go ahead.
Okay. This is Tom Franz, committee member here in Shafter. This kind of report is not very useful. I strongly recommend we have a special committee meeting with a couple experts at the Air District to go through the monitoring data and to give more suggestions about what is needed. To just hear that, oh, we did some monitoring and we're always below the standard, that's not telling us anything. I'm glad to hear the PM10 monitor has started again. And I hope we can get the information from that monitor daily, like we do with the PM 2.5 monitors. The question we had about the Shafter ozone monitor versus the California, Bakersfield, California monitor, the one at California and Stockdale, was very specific. We said that for the last dozen years or longer, actually longer, Shafter's always been well below. We know the two ozone monitors track each other. When one goes up, the other goes up, but Shafter has averaged, let's just say 8% most years in the summer when violations are occurring, and Shafter does have violations even this year. And Shafter has more violations this year than the Bakersfield monitor. It's very obvious that things have reversed. Shafter is no longer better than in downtown or California and Stockdale, but it's at least for the months of June and July, I believe it was consistently about 6% worse. And we were wondering if anyone at the Air District with your expertise has an explanation for why that has turned around.
Hey, Tom, can I address that really quickly while Chai is on this slide?
Yeah, I can address that, but I have more questions.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yeah, actually, Chai, while you're on this, or maybe can you go back 1 to 19, because Tom is right. So typically, Bakersfield, California, and especially May, June, you can see that's that blue line that kind of pops up above everything. Tends to be one of the higher sites. It's in the more populated area that gets a lot more traffic. So there tends to be more of the precursors that cause ozone. And certainly in the area, it's definitely usually much higher than Shafter. So if you go to 2020, and sorry that we didn't spend a little bit more time on this explaining it, you'll notice that there wasn't exactly, it's not like there's been a rise in Shafter. It's pretty consistently low. It's running on par with what we saw in 2019, as are most of the other sites, but you're completely correct. It is running much higher than Bakersfield, California. And so our analysis we've been doing actually a lot recently, valley-wide, has been looking a lot at vehicle miles traveled on the freeways and just kind of throughout the valley and how that has been affecting ozone. As it relates to the shelter-in-place orders. And so you can see, and what our hypothesis is here, is that the site at Bakersfield, California is much more sensitive to the changes in the shelter-in-place orders. So while we didn't see necessarily an increase in Shafter, we definitely saw a decrease and significant one from typical, whereas activities were probably similar or typical around the Shafter area, just given that it's a lower population. And you can see that kind of tracks as you move forward in time, because the big difference, as you rightfully mentioned, is really in May and the beginning of June. As we move toward July, we found that the activities, while they're not completely normal right now, are a little bit more normal than they were in May, when I think more people were sheltering and not quite at work yet. So that was sort of our hypothesis there. And thank you for bringing that up. I'm sorry we didn't kind of go into that a little bit here.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, for your first question or comment on as far as presenting the data, just to help us better provide this data to the steering committee and better understand what's going on in there. What are some of the things that you would like to see? I know we did the quarterly report, and that might be a lot of information in there, and there's quite a bit in there already. But as far as data, what are the things that you would like to see?
I want to see almost all of the mobile data you've collected, because in your presentation, you showed some of the mobile ozone readings never went above 64. Yet we've had several days this summer when the maximum 8-hour average was above 70, which is a violation, even 75 a couple times. So I'm not sure why there's no mobile data on those days to see if it was even worse at other locations besides where the monitor is at the DMV. So seeing more data on the same day from different locations around Shafter to see how much the air quality may vary around Shafter would be important. I have one other question. You mentioned that you think you're going to get the monitor placed at Golden Oak. I assume that will measure PM 2.5 at least. Will that, how close to the street, to Lerdo, will that monitor be now that you have a plan that the school board is looking at? Because there are two, a kindergarten and daycare playground that is right on the street, separated by a fence and a sidewalk from Lerdo Highway. And not only that, separated that close, that near to stop signs where diesel trucks stop and then take off, two of them. So I'm very curious, were you able to get a plan where that monitor would be, you know, within 50 feet or less of those intersections in that highway, instead of clear on the other side of the school where the reading would be much less meaningful?
Yeah, I think, hey, Brad, are you here?
Yeah, I'm right here. To address the location, we were really limited to where this Richland School Board or school district staff would allow us to put it at, and we're about a couple hundred feet away from one of the intersections. So we are as close as we can possibly be without having to move children, add extra fencing or anything else to the facility. And we're really at the facility's mercy as to where we got it. But we did get it as close as we possibly could to one of those four-way stop intersections.
And you explained to the school officials how important it was to be close to the, as close as possible, I assume.
Absolutely. And there was also a lot of other things that played a factor. So that way we were making sure that our instrument would be as not influenced by any other obstructions in the area. So that way we were able to pull the best of data.
Okay.
And I'm gonna jump.
Yeah, but let me repeat the need for special meeting on these, some of these monitoring things. This report today and the time, right now we're being cut off. We can't discuss it any longer. We need more time on this. At least I'm requesting that. So special meeting, please.
Thank you for that. We hear you. We hear your request. Thank you for clarifying what type of data would be helpful. All your questions are always spot on. Thank you for that. We want to take a question from Gustavo, and then I'm going to move us along so we're staying on time. Gustavo?
Yes, thank you very much. So, similar to, and this is more of a kind of observation and then kind of a follow-up, but, looking at kind of, regional and statewide and really even global trends, during this, really unprecedented, pandemic, there has been a decline, in some places drastically and in some places, smaller, but there has been a decline, in air pollution. And, the pandemic has really played a role in that with stay-at-home orders, not only here, but globally. So I think one thing that would be interesting is to really kind of be able to, if the information is available, I know for the mobile monitor, it might be a lot more difficult, but to really look at even kind of the data for this same time frame from a year ago, and really, just not really kind of do a deeper dive, but really kind of it would be interesting to look at, data from this time a year ago and just really see the effects, is it because of the pandemic, or is it really kind of more of a traditional decline over time? And so I think that would be interesting. And I also do second the motion that Mr. Tom Franz suggested on having an air kind of a subcommittee for the camp, for the entire camp, right? The entire community air monitoring plan itself. It's something that's separate from the SERP, and I think it deserves its own attention. And having a subcommittee, I think, would be beneficial. I'm not sure what others in the committee think, but I think that would be beneficial. to, it seems like from the mobile aspect, from those 4 kind of sites, those little micro-regional sites, there was an average of like 3 or 5 days that, that were visited. All those days being, during this pandemic. So I think there's value in keeping this kind of data going, depending on how we shift into the fall and even into the winter. Winter being a very interesting time here in the Valley for air contaminants. So yeah, I second the motion of having that specialized subcommittee for air monitoring.
All right, thanks for your input, both Tom and Gustavo on that. I think and it's definitely interesting, and I think the farther we go in the next couple months here, we'll have, as we get closer to, we'll have data to compare with the previous year, and we can kind of really look at the impact of the pandemic on the emissions. Just wanted to clarify on our bans. The data that we showed there were actually all of the data, and it's just that with the van, we're just going to a site and then we're staying there for a few hours, and then we're going to another site and staying there a few hours. So it's not a continuous where you just turn it on and you drive all around town and keep on driving. It's just a little bit harder to compare that way. So the way that it's set is we go to a site and just spend a few hours there, 3 to 4 hours, and hopefully we'll collect enough of that data that once you put them all together, you'll start being able to see some type of a trend in those particular areas. But right now, it is somewhat a little bit limited, but I think the more we do this, the more we'll be able to get a better picture of what is going on in these areas.
Okay. And then just to clarify, the mobile air monitor, like you stated, you don't turn on the air monitors and drive around for an hour or two. You turn on the monitors and park and collect kind of ambient air quality during that period of time in those different locations.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
And we will, just to piggyback on Shai, because we have been using those vans as surrogates at the school sites as well, we will have more sites for the North Shafter, by the dairies, by the airport, and by the Mexican colony once we have those other sites up and running, to alleviate having to go to those other sites in the meantime. So.
Tom, I see your hand, but I want to keep us on track. I hear that this is important to the committee agenda item. This is a standing update. We're going to continue to revisit that, and I hear you loud and clear that we need to spend more time on this item. Tom, are you comfortable at this point moving to the chat box or emailing the district after the meeting the questions and suggestions that you have?
I just have a quick question. When you do the monitor, like the mobile monitoring, do you do it on business hours or after hours? That's one of the biggest questions that I do have, just clarifying, because there's sometimes the pollution goes worse in the afternoon when everything settles down, or in the very early morning. So just
yeah. So the times that you see there, those are the times where we're at. So with this one, we're basically having somebody here from Fresno, and we're driving over there to get it at least to around 9 o'clock or so. We start measuring, so it's really during the business hour.
Hey Bianca, it's Ryan. Yeah, we'll definitely take that into consideration for future monitoring and looking at what opportunities are available to extend the time periods and make sure that we're fully capturing that information. So thanks for the input.
And also to piggyback on what's been said, we will get a subcommittee meeting up and running as soon as possible, maybe by the end of the month, but probably my guess will be September.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that update, Jamie. Okay, I'm gonna move us along. The subcommittee meeting is coming, so we will have more time to talk about this item. Let's move into subcommittee updates. We're gonna hear from Jamie on school measures, school filtration, and school bus measures updates.
Yes, so we, as was mentioned, we met as a subcommittee meeting. We now have reached out. Linda Martin has been fantastic. And Linda, I don't know, I believe you're on this, I believe you're on the meeting, but one of my team members has reached out directly to Linda, and we're going to start getting schools signed up. So we've talked with our grant program, and we're going to put together basically an application for school filtration based on the guidelines for this program that have come from CARB. So there are guidelines on what CARB will fund. So we're going to build an application based on that. We're calling all the schools with Linda's help to connect with them to make sure that we understand not only that we've got this grant program and that it's coming shortly, but also to just understand a little bit of what's happening on the ground and some of the potential pitfalls that we might be seeing. I've learned a lot about commercial, or really it's commercial air conditioning units in the last couple of weeks, and we have about 8 questions that we need to ask schools just to begin to understand how they manage some of this. So that is moving forward. And as we talk to schools regarding air filtration, we'll also be circling around with school buses, although I believe Todd can correct me if he has the number off the top of his head, but I think we already have at least 1 or 2 electric school buses that are headed in this Shafter area for the school district down there.
3.
Oh, 3, I was wrong. 8 electric school buses. That's my update, but I'll be happy to answer any questions. But big shout out again to Linda. She's been great.
Let's take 1 or 2 questions from the committee about subcommittee updates, and then we'll move to the next update. I do not see any hands, and please feel free to use the chat box, and the area district staff will answer any questions. Okay, see no hands. Moving on to Department of Pesticides Regulations update, and I believe I have none.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nan Singha Simanan. No problem. I'm assistant director, one of the assistant directors over there. And you know, if you've heard from MinFom or from Edgar Vidrio, they work one of the branches that report to me. So you know, I know that we have a standing agenda item, and you know, I don't think we have as much to report this time around. But you know, I thought it'd be a good idea to be present rather than absent, and just to let you guys know that you know we're working on a number of things that would be important to you. Last time Val was on this call, he gave everybody an update on the local notification. This time around, he wasn't able to be here, so he just asked me to pass on. He regrets not being able to join you this time, but I'm just filling in. In terms of development, I know that Val had mentioned that he was down in Kern County last Friday, I believe, and met with Bianca, with Gus, and also the president and vice president of the Kern County Farm Bureau. And apparently they had a very good conversation regarding notification. You know, I mean, I think that's a positive to hear that. So maybe Gus or Bianca may have something to kind of offer in terms of additional detail, because they were there, you know, in conversation, but that occurred. In terms of the mitigation pilot, I know that you guys have heard about that from time to time, in, you know, relations to how it would impact your area and community. And you know, I just let you know that we've been having a lot of meetings within the last month or so with applicators, with Dow Chemical, with some of the commissioners that are in the areas that we're working in. And we're on track to essentially doing, you know, looking at applications in September and into October. That's our plan. There's still a lot of conversations going on to make sure that that happens on track. And you know, I'm pretty certain that there's going to be work that we're going to do in the Shafter area, of course. And I think by the time we have next standing update for next month, I believe your meetings are monthly, correct? There will be more to report then on the mitigation aspect. And potentially Val could be back here too, to give you a little bit kind of a heads up about notification as well. So at this point, I don't know if Gus or Bianca, if you guys want to share anything about you know, the conversation you guys had with Val and some of the other folks.
Hey, now how's it going? Thank you. I stepped out for just a little bit, but is this the meeting that occurred between Bianca, Val, Patty, and John Moore around the pesticide stuff? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm not sure if Bianca, if you want to share some stuff, I can share some stuff as well.
Yeah, if you can briefly share, that would be great. If you can be brief, that would be great. Thanks, Gustavo and Bianca.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Just very brief. We sat down with Bianca, Val, a DPR, John Moore, who's a farmer in Arvin and is part of the Kern County Farm Bureau, and I believe he might farm in Shafter as well. And Patty, who is with the Sustainable Groundwater Management kind of department here in Kern County, previously with, I believe, Grimway, and currently also with the Kern County Farm Bureau. And we talked about, notifications around pesticide and what it meant, right? And I think one highlight, one takeaway was like non-starters, right? Things that, maybe at this point are not feasible for us, right? And I think one thing that came out was definitely the proposition that Glenn from the Kern County Ag Commissioner put out regarding, 300-foot only buffer, a notification through pamphlets, something that was, very exclusatory. And, looking at something, in contrast, not having some kind of like Amber Alert notification system, right, that is potentially invasive, right? But looking at something in the medium, right? And I think part of that was just part of the discussion, right? Just to open that, to establish kind of where we could land, right? And so at this moment is, I believe, it definitely deserves, a standalone portion, maybe not at this meeting, but one very soon, or even, a pesticide subcommittee where we talk about those parameters, right? Of what is something that is acceptable for a pesticide notification. And in this case, is not an exclusatory, 300 feet only, but, it's also maybe not, everyone in Shafter gets, notified at the same time, right? We're looking at something in the middle, and I think this was the start of that conversation. And then we definitely invite every single body in all, 68 participants to chime in and, build this conversation around, what is acceptable for residents in Shafter around pesticide and pesticide notification. And we came down to the conclusion that, focus just on the toxic air contaminants, which are, some of the, very strong stuff, pesticide that's restricted use, right? We have non-restricted use pesticide and restricted use pesticides that require permits. And so just looking at those top 5, right? It's not every single pesticide under the umbrella, is just looking at those 5 that, we've looked at data already, it's already been mapped, we've had discussions around them, right? Including Talone and others. So I believe and I hope that we can come to a conclusion very quickly and actually start getting this rolling and actually developing the notification process, right? But it is going to start, we need to do, that building of those parameters around, what is acceptable. And if I miss anything, Bianca, please.
Great, Gustavo. Thank you for that update. I know a lot of committee members are interested in what's been happening, and I know this is a very important item for the committee. And as Gustavo mentioned, we will be spending more time on this item in the future. I want to move us forward, so we have enough time for solar and energy efficiency agenda items, something that you guys suggested we discuss today. But before I do that, I want to turn it back to Anna. I think we had a question from our Spanish-speaking participants.
Sorry, did someone have a question? ¿Alguien tenía una pregunta en español?
While we're waiting, I just want to add that I want to let Gus know that was the best DPR update I've ever heard in this group. So
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sí, diga su pregunta. Sí.
Kenna is listening to a question, everyone. Just help me out there. We're still listening to the question, right? Yes, Heather?
Yeah, I think Anna is gathering the questions from the callers.
Okay. And meanwhile, committee members, if you have questions for Nam, he is still here. I have your questions for him in the chat box.
Yeah, she's asking, she said she received a letter from the solar company for solar energy, and she was breaking down the percentage of what, you know, the low income requirements. So she's wondering if a person, like an elderly person that makes more than that, can they still qualify?
Great. Thank you for that question. It looks like she's moving us right into the next agenda item.
Hey, Hannah, before we move on, I think Karen Buckley with ARB wanted to say something.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I just want to make sure the translation starts rolling once Karen speaks, and it looks like Anna is still on the phone. Anna, we're good to go? Can you please share that we will answer this question in the next presentation?
Okay, can you hear me, Hannah?
Karen, you need to select the English channel in order for us to hear you. It sounds like you haven't selected a channel.
Hannah?
Sorry, what was it? I have the Zoom meeting really low to hear them on the phone. What was the question?
And are there any more comments from our Spanish speakers?
Ajá. ¿Tienen alguna otra pregunta?
And I think Hannah was also letting you know that the next item is solar, so we will answer it then.
Yes. Thank you, Jessica.
I don't hear any more questions from the phone line.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna pass it to Karen before moving to the next agenda item. Karen?
Okay, Hannah, can you hear me now?
No, we cannot hear Karen.
I can hear vaguely, like very faintly, I think.
Very faint, Karen. It's like you're whispering. Are you in the English channel?
Yeah.
Try again.
Karen,
Let's see. Hear you.
try to mute maybe original audio, see if it helps. We cannot hear you, Karen. Karen, can you do the test one more time?
How is that working?
Better.
A little better.
Thank goodness. I'll get closer.
Speak loud.
Okay. I just wanted to let everybody know if the group decides that they want to have a subcommittee on pesticides, that CARB and DPR would be available to participate. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know.
Uh-huh.
That's very helpful. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. As I mentioned, you folks asked for this agenda item, and we have 3 guests here today to talk about solar and energy efficiency programs. What programs exist in this, already exist? How can community better learn about these programs, and how can we ultimately increase participation in these programs? I'm gonna kick it off to Jessica for the very quick, to set us up for this agenda items and talk about where this item is served, why we're talking about solar and energy efficiency today.
Absolutely. So I will be brief, just given that we have a limited amount of time. We had 2 items in the SERP that really sort of touch on what we're talking about today. If you recall, we have a big item on seeking incentives for local businesses and homeowners to install solar panels and energy storage. That item also connected, or promised to connect committee members and residents with a variety of different programs across the state on how to take advantage of other programs and leverage more funding to take advantage of solar programs. So that is definitely going to be related to pretty much all 3 of our presenters today. And there was also an item that we called IAQ1, but that was to mitigate indoor exposure of air pollution through weatherization and enhanced energy efficiency. That is very related. And I think you will find not only will the CPUC and the Grid Alternatives folks who are with us today be helpful, but we also brought the Community Action Partnership of Kern, or CAPK, here. And they will be talking a little bit about those programs. So there are so many programs. I won't talk any longer because there's a lot to get through. So I'll pass it back to Hannah. Thank you.
Great. And as your folks listening to this listening to this presentation, think about several things. First, how can we reach out to the rest of the community and educate them about these programs? And second thing, how can we increase community participation in this program? And after the presentations, we're looking for ideas and suggestions from you. How can we better do this? Okay, and with that, I'm gonna pass it to Bertha Aguilar with Grid Alternatives. Oh, no, Sarah goes first.
I was gonna say, I think Bertha is gonna go first. Bertha has to get going, so if that's okay, Sarah.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bertha Aguilar. I'm a Senior Outreach Coordinator at Grid Alternatives. For those of you who haven't heard about us, we've been around since 2009. Grid Alternatives is a nonprofit organization that makes solar technology training accessible to underserved communities. Our vision is a successful transition to clean, renewable energy that includes everyone. So we are the nation's largest solar installer. Grid developed and implement solar projects that serve low-income households and communities through our unique People First motto. We are putting money back into families' pockets, reducing the energy cost burden for housing providers, and jumpstarting solar careers as well. We partner with affordable housing organizations, job training groups, government agencies, municipalities, utilities, tribes, and local communities to make solar a win for everyone. So with this program, our goal is to try to help our families save up to 80% on their electric bill. All systems are at no cost due to a DAC/SASH program that is that helps us qualify homeowners. And of course, all our programs are income-based, and they do have to qualify by being on a map that's given to us by the state. We offer education and energy conversations to homeowners. So since we have the COVID-19, we're not able to do a lot of the training right now, but we do have what's called IBT class, where we train persons on how to do solar so they can go out and get jobs in this community. So we promote training skills for employment. just one second. So with the DAC-SASH program, that is an income-based, and it's a single-family solar homes program for disadvantaged communities. We have another program that is single-family affordable solar homes, which is called SASH. Now, all of them have their own maps. If these family members are not on a map, but they had help through the county or the city, or they have like a USDA loan, some kind of affordability covenant, that would qualify them for the program as well. So like I said, we've been here since 2009 here in the Valley. Grid Alternatives has been around since 2001 in the Bay Area. So a way a person would qualify for this program is, first of all, to give us a call. So we would screen them over the phone. We would ask them certain questions. We would do an application with them. Once the application is processed, we have a construction team that would actually set up an appointment to go out and look at these persons' roofs, their breaker box, to make sure that everything is up to par and we can install on their home. If not, we'll give them an idea of what they need to do to prepare the home to get solar. We request all the permitting for the homeowner. The homeowner basically just watches us do the work. We will give them a summary once it's been designed, so we can tell them, this is the percentage we're going to give you. You know, it's really up to the homeowner to reach that goal. We'll tell them how many panels they're going to get, how much money they're going to be able to save from the first year on. The installations are usually a one-day install. There is those special homes that sometimes our tile roofs are a little bit more difficult. It can be 1 to 2 to 3 days. The whole process after they've been installed with solar to get the system turned on can take about 30 to 45 days. We'll get the permission to operate, and we call the client, let them know they can turn on the system. We also provide a warranty packet to the homeowner, and we try to do a warranty training over the phone so they know what to look for if their system ever goes down. You know, and they'll always be in contact with the person who helped them do the application during the whole time they have solar. You know, if anything happens to their system, any questions, they're going to call their outreach coordinator. So that's basically what I was given to present. If anybody has any questions regarding our solar program, ask away.
Thank you, Bertha. Well, sounds like a wonderful program. All
It's
you
great.
need, basically, if you qualify, we just give you guys a call, and you take it from there, walk the community through the application, and send the team to install the solar panel.
Correct. We like them to call first so we can see if they're going to qualify, and then we'll give them the whole explanation. We'll walk them through and get them started.
Great. We have a question from Tom. Tom, go ahead.
Okay, I understand how the cost of the solar panels and the installation can be nearly free for a qualifying homeowner.
Correct.
But the cost on an older home of the breaker box and some rewiring, because if you go to solar, you're probably going to want to go to electricity for also heating your home and possibly hot water. But the rewiring costs could be there no matter what. And then, of course, solar should not be put on a roof unless that roof has at least a remaining, you know, 15 to 20 year life expectancy.
Correct.
So a lot of people have a roof that's perfectly adequate, but it's not going to last for 10 or 15 more years. So is there money for these other costs as well? And I'm asking you and anybody else presenting here today, how do we get these other costs paid? And
So,
at the same time, I noticed the CERP budget, though, did have $1.5 million in it for the solar program. I'm assuming that's money on top of the state subsidized programs we're talking about. So I'd like someone from the Air District to say how they foresee that 1.5 million being spent. So a lot of questions, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm with Grid. This is Bertha. So we do have our construction person that goes to the home. They're going to look at the roof. They're going to make sure that that roof is in good condition. If it's not, they will let the homeowner know, you know, for us to proceed, this section of the roof needs to be fixed if they can't do the whole roof. So if it has 15 years or more, then they would be good to go. Now, the breaker box as well, we look at that. If that breaker box is older and it won't pass with the city inspection, we will include that in the cost. We will upgrade that box either by getting a contractor to upgrade it, or Southern California Edison has a contractor that comes out, and they work directly with SCE and they upgrade it with their own system. It's a little bit different, and with Southern California Edison, they want the homeowner's signature notarized to make sure that they have approval to do it. So I'm not sure if we're working with SCE here or PG&E territory, but the electric territories have their own, it's called the GMA, it's kind of an upgrade that they want the homeowner to sign an upgrade form.
Bertha, and I see the question in the chat box. What is the actual cost to a consumer?
So the consumer's not going to pay anything. So we are a state-funded program. So, you know, we will design the system, and we'll find out by their usage how many panels they're going to be able to get and what it's going to take to install it. They'll bring up a figure, and then they run it into the budget, and if it passes, we'll cover the whole cost. So the client does not have to pay anything out of pocket.
Great, thank you.
Can I just clarify? This is Sarah. I'll talk about it later, but it is really important that people make sure they're talking with grid alternatives only about this, because there are no other companies approved to offer free solar panels or programs, although many others claim to be doing so. So grid alternatives is the only one approved by the state to do it.
Great, thank you. So I wonder if we have a couple maybe suggestions from the committee. How can we better promote this program and let the rest of your community members know about this program? What would be some outreach suggestions? Oh, Tom?
Yeah, well, we have to understand the program fully before we can promote it, but obviously it applies to homeowners almost exclusively. I know landlords may be interested, but I don't know if they would even qualify. So, but let me ask one more question then. If someone goes to solar, because I'm thinking of myself as much as anyone, they're probably also strongly considering electric vehicle and electrifying their entire house, because there's nothing but savings if they do that, and it's the future anyway. So how much over your last year or two of usage do you allow the homeowner to go? Like, can you go 30% over what your usage was, assuming that you're going to use more electricity and less of other fuels like gasoline for your car and natural gas for your home? So how far over can you go from what you've used in the last year or two?
So basically we take your usage for the last 12 months. They'll design the system based off of that. And like I said, we save our homeowners up to 80%. Everything's going to depend on the usage, the roof space, and of course the funding that we have. Now, if we're bringing in an electric vehicle, that's going to be a whole different calculation, because we do offer that as well. We have a new program that just started, but that would be construction. That would be a question for them. So a lot of the times we get clients who are interested. We go out to their home, and then we give them all the answers that they want, and then you have the right to say, you know what, I don't want it after all, or you want to proceed. We never want anybody to be unhappy. We want to make sure you're happy with what you're getting. So like I said, you won't get all the information until the end.
Right. Those are excellent technical questions, detailed questions, Tom. I want to make sure, I think Colby was trying to chime in on the phone. Colby Morrow, were you trying to ask the question?
No.
No? Okay. Just making sure. And I'm reading the chat box. Looks like the flyer for this program is posted on the website in the steering committee, under steering committee meeting. Okay, and the link is in the chat box, so please download the flyer for the program. Okay, I'm gonna move us along. We have two more programs to come to to learn about. So let's keep going. Our next presenter is from California Public Utilities Commission, and we're going to hear from Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see my screen? I'm trying to share my PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Okay. Can you all, I don't know if you can see, it's like confusing because I have two screens. Okay, so hi everybody. I think I know quite a few of you from my past jobs and working primarily in air quality in the San Joaquin Valley. I am now an advisor for the last 2 years or so, almost 2.5 years, for one of the commissioners at the California Public Utilities Commission. Let's see, why is it not? How do I, okay, just a little bit of background in case you are not familiar with the Public Utilities Commission, as I wasn't a few years ago. We regulate the electrical and natural gas investor-owned utilities. So not all of the utilities in California, but the major ones you know of, like PG&E, SoCalGas, SoCal Edison. We also regulate telecommunications, rail safety, not the rates, passenger and moving companies, and some water, also investor-owned water companies, not the municipal. The CPUC has been undertaking a lot of work under environmental and social justice and disadvantaged communities, and we have now a disadvantaged communities advisory group that was established in March 2018. And this is not a picture of them, but many you may know some of the people that are represented on there. They are from across the state. And we also, right after I started working there, adopted an environmental and social justice action plan in February of 2019. And I would encourage you to look at that to see what we're doing and really trying to change the culture of our agency to really confront and do what you guys are doing here with AB 617, which is very exciting to see how far we've all gotten. I would also say that about in November of 2019, we had an intern who in our office who we asked to do a report about AB 617, the first round of cycle of AB 617 communities, and how the programs at the PUC could support your efforts to address air pollution in each of your communities. And part of the goal here was to because it's very confusing across the state, which territory each community is in. As I said, we have a web of investor-owned utilities versus municipal utilities, and they're regulated differently. I just wanted to clarify to make sure I have the right information, but is Shafter a PG&E community or SoCal Edison?
Sarah, I believe it's all PG&E.
Okay, good. I was like, because I was prepared for PG&E, but then somebody, because Bertha said SoCal Edison, I was like, uh-oh. So our report said that it was PG&E. I just wanted to clarify. We did try to ground truth that. Is it SoCal Gas for gas, or is it also PG&E for gas? Natural gas, I'm sorry.
It is SoCal Gas.
Okay, so you guys are one of the split communities. Since we're focusing on electricity issues for this presentation, I focused on PG&E. We also wanted to identify, as I said, the relevant IOU program. We call them investor-owned utilities, are called IOUs. We wanted to see which programs the IOUs in your territory have based on the priorities that your community identified. And then also we wanted to increase coordination between the PUC, the ARB, and regional air districts like the San Joaquin Valley Air District. And me being here today is a sign of that, which is good. I also just wanted to mention, just since I have you all here, that we have been doing a lot of work around COVID-19 protections since March at the PUC. And that's been the bulk of what I've been working on in the last 3 months or so. How many months has it been? Anyway, and so it's very important that everybody knows that they should not be disconnected from any of their utilities. There's a moratorium on being shut off, and for energy, I believe it's until April of 2021. There's a lot of other protections, and you can find them all on our website. but it goes the same for your telecommunications as well, and water, and then anything else that we regulate. So this is what we call the net energy metering package. My commissioner that I work for prioritized this when she came on board at the PUC. She wanted to focus on getting solar available and accessible to disadvantaged communities. And so she put forth a package including what we call the DAC green tariff. So that's the disadvantaged communities green tariff. And that is making solar energy available to people who cannot put it on their home. So renters or people who have a roof who cannot, the roof is too old to put, or whatever is wrong with the house, they cannot put solar on their house. So this is essentially a program where the utilities purchase clean energy from a solar farm or solar other location, and essentially we are selling it to the community members who sign up, and they have to live in a disadvantaged community. And they have to be, I believe, enrolled in CARE or FARA. And so with PG&E, we partnered, and last month we just adopted a program to automatically enroll people into this program because we did not want to wait for the administrative process of people finding out about it and having to do something to sign up. And my commissioner has been working extensively on the problem of disconnections or shutoffs, and changing the policies at the state of our utilities and how they shut off people and why they shut off people. And so we identified a group across the state of people, of customers in disadvantaged communities, and we asked PG&E to automatically enroll them in this program. And so as soon as they will be enrolled, they will automatically get 20% off of their bill, which would be in addition to their CARE discount or their FARA discount that they already hopefully get. And they will be located in the top 15% Cal Enviro Green communities. So I looked at the list. There's about 18,500 households in PG&E territory that are going to be automatically enrolled, most likely this month or next month. And there's about roughly 180 households in Shafter from 3 census tracts that are qualified because we identified households that have been struggling to pay their bills and were at risk of being shut off. And these are I'm not going to go through each one, but these are the criteria used to select those. I don't know if I think I'll just keep going unless you guys want to interrupt me with questions.
Yes, keep going.
Okay. So the second part of the NEM DAC, what we call NEM DAC package, which is making solar more accessible to disadvantaged communities, is called DAC Community Solar for DACs. This is also a new program. It has just launched. PG&E just completed their first cycle of requests for offers, I believe, or RFOs. And the selections have not been announced publicly as far as I know, but the solar facility, the way this works is that this is also meant to be for people who cannot put solar on their own home for whatever reason, for them to get the benefit. And they will be receiving 20% off of their bill, as the same as the previous program. But this one, they would have to be in the vicinity of the actual solar facility. So, and there should be a community sponsor. So the community sponsor could be a local nonprofit, a local government, or a school. And they would put a solar installation on their property, and then they would sign up low-income community members within a vicinity. I believe it's 5 miles for the normal program. And then we expanded that for our San Joaquin Valley pilot communities, of which Shafter is unfortunately not one of them right now. But we have 10 or 11 communities that we have been doing a pilot project in San Joaquin Valley. So for those, they only have to be 40, they can be up to 40 miles away from the community solar project. So as I said, this is a new program. It's not up and running, but you should be looking out for solar developers who are putting these together and getting community sponsors to put this together. And then people in your community can sign up to participate, and then they get 20% off their bill without having to have any solar on their house or any debt associated. This these are the two programs that Grid Alternatives already mentioned, so I didn't want to go over them too much, but we have solar on multifamily affordable housing. I don't know if she mentioned that actually, but they are one of the administrators of that program. So if you have any affordable housing, multifamily affordable housing in Shafter, they might be eligible for this, and I would contact Grid as well. And then DACSASH, which is the one she just described, so I won't go into it. And then next we have the self-generation incentive program, which is basically a fancy word for storage, battery storage on your home. And it's a very popular option to partner with your solar now to have a battery for backup. We have made quite a few changes to this program in response to the wildfire issues and the public safety power shutoffs that happened last year. And so, and they made a new set aside for equity, they call it, for low-income communities and disadvantaged communities and high fire threat areas. So there is more than $1 billion through 2024 available for this. And you would go on PG&E's website. I put the link here to see who offers that and find out if you're eligible. Jessica told me that you also were interested in electric vehicles. I can skip this part if you want, but I have some information about these are all PG&E, as I said. I think I forgot to mention that the way that the PUC works is we regulate the IOUs, the utilities. So we essentially authorize any program that we direct them to create programs to comply with certain legislation and statutes. So we also direct what they're doing with electric vehicles. So they have low carbon fuel standard rebates that you can find on this web link here. And then we also approve their rates. And so they have plug-in electric vehicle time of use rates that are now available to make it, as Tom mentioned, more affordable for people who have electric vehicles. They have a different rate schedule. Here are some more programs. Most of these programs are beginning outreach and installations by the end of 2020 or early 2021. That's the timeline. So there's the direct current fast chargers make ready program. And some of these, I think there was a question about how do we get incentives or programs for schools or parks. And so these are to put EV charging in schools and parks. And for the schools, 40% of the sites must be located in a disadvantaged community. So I would really encourage you to look into that. They do have some target areas in Alameda, Fresno, and San Joaquin counties, but I believe Shafter would definitely be eligible. And for the parks, 25% of sites must be located in a DAC. And then in Power EV, there is not a DAC target, but all customers will be low to moderate income. I know I have a lot of information here, so I'm just gonna go really fast. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
We also, in addition, if you're interested in medium duty to heavy duty programs, PG&E will have a fleet ready program. And there's going to be a minimum of 700 sites to support electrification of at least 6,500 medium duty to heavy duty fleet vehicles. And 25% of this budget also must be spent on infrastructure in DACs. And I know that there was the mention of energy efficiency, so I would be remiss in not mentioning our Energy Savings Assistance Program, ESA, which hopefully everybody's heard of. And I also should mention CARE, I can't remember the acronym CARE stands for, but that's our discount program for low-income families. So I do want to make sure everybody's aware of those and enrolled if possible. And ESA is also the same. If you live in a house, apartment, or mobile home that is 5 years or older, you could receive free improvements to make your home more energy efficient, safe, and comfortable. And both renters and owners are eligible. I would also just highlight that during COVID, due to COVID right now, all of the investor-owned utilities are temporarily allowing self-certification of your income. So you don't need to have any proof of income at this point. I think that's it. Sorry, I went through so fast. I'm willing to take questions, and if I don't have the answers, I'm happy to follow up afterwards.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. So what I've heard, there's definitely several solar and energy efficiency programs that community can participate. There are flyers for these programs that, to Tom's point, we do need to learn a lot about these programs, and we simply don't have enough time right now. Are there flyers for each program that we can share with the community?
We rely on, we authorize, I should say, the utilities to do their own marketing, education, and outreach. And so hopefully they do have flyers for each one, but I know for sure there's information on their website. I was gonna say, I forgot to ask in the beginning, but I don't think I saw anybody from PG&E on this call, but I know they've been participating in some AB 617 steering committees. So it would be really important to work closely with them. I know that they know what you're interested in because we've talked to them about it, but that's kind of how it works. We ourselves at the PUC generally don't have make flyers or information outreach information.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any quick questions for Sarah? I know she just did a very high level overview of what programs exist that this community can potentially participate in. Any quick questions, clarifying questions for Sarah? Oh, I see Tom's hand.
Yes, are you recognizing me?
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Hi, Sarah. So my question is about electrification of home heating, hot water, and cooking. What state programs are there, or what's coming down the road to help people who want to fully electrify their home? And I'm mostly assuming that they're going to get solar, because it doesn't make a lot of sense otherwise, but it might make sense. But electrification of appliances and so on, I think needs a lot of help, and it would reduce our local air pollution significantly as well. So is there any help there coming from the?
Yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. I guess I went too fast and I skipped my last slide. There are some interesting things coming up and previous programs that we're still considering reinstating. Though what you're talking about would fall under what we call building decarbonization. And there was some legislation passed, I believe, last year, directing us to develop some programs. So building initiative for low emissions development and just build and technology and equipment for clean heating. And so those will be developed. They are being developed right now. I'm happy to have you as a party in the proceeding to develop those. We always need more input, but I know you're really busy. So that will be coming. And I have more information about the dollar amounts and everything. And the other thing I would mention, I don't know about Shafter, but there are a lot of communities, and maybe some of you know people who still rely on propane for their heating because they do not have access to natural gas. And so that is what our San Joaquin Valley proceeding is about. It's for community getting more affordable energy options for folks who have been paying for propane. And phase 3 will be opening it up to all of the other 150 so communities across the San Joaquin Valley that still need to transition away from propane, and most likely we will be considering offering electrification, and that's what the pilots are doing right now. And the pilots are happening in California City, Alpa, Allensworth, Fairmead. I'm just saying these off the top of my head. There's a lot of them.
Well, we want to get rid of natural gas.
Yes.
Electrify, and we want to do this in old homes.
Yes.
I mean, of course, it's much easier to do it on new homes, and it makes total sense. I don't know if the city of Shafter will ever have an inclination to require new homes to be all electric, but they should, because it's good for the economy and it's the future. but old homes need to be converted as well. And that's what we're most interested in.
Yeah, that's what we're doing with the pilot projects. And so hopefully all of you have friends in Alpa or Allensworth or some of the other communities that are going to undergo that full home electrification transition and can really make the case. And we're going to learn how much it costs, a real live San Joaquin Valley cost of electrifying an old home and even some mobile homes. And so, you know, that's what we're undertaking in the next 2 to 3 years. And once we finish those, we'll be doing the next phase.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Okay, I want to move us to our next presenter from the Community Action Partnership of Kern. Let's learn about energy efficiency programs that they have. And as you're listening to Todd, please type in the chat box any suggestions. How can we better promote these programs? What type of materials would be helpful? What type of outreach would be helpful? Please, you know your community. Some of the suggestions came earlier, guidelines, for example. So think creatively, how can we better promote these programs and spread the message about these programs? Okay, I'm gonna pass it to Todd Payne with Community Action Partnership of Kern.
Yeah, hi, can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. So my name's Todd Payne. I'm the program administrator over the energy program here at CAPK. Energy program here is kind of split into 2 areas. We have utility assistance on one side, and we have weatherization on the other. Both are completely funded through federal and state dollars. Usually it's federal dollars passed down to each individual state, and then the state divvies them out as seen. It's completely nonprofit, so everything that we get is dollar spent, dollar repaid by the state. And the way it works is a client can call in. They dial 211 here in Kern County, all over Kern County, and you'll get our call center. And then they can request information. They can get the application sent out to them. They can print the application from our website, and they can schedule a time to come in and meet with one of the techs inside that will help get set up. If it's an elderly client that needs help, we can send an outreach staff out to the home to help sign them up, go through paperwork, show them what documentation needs to be had. We try to make it as easily as possible for people to be able to sign up and get in. So what happens is fairly easy. If they qualify for either of the programs, they qualify for both. So it's the same income guidelines for utility assistance as it is for the weatherization side. So a lot of times what happens is people will come in, they'll sign up for one, and then they'll go ahead and jump over to the other. They know about one, they don't know about the other. Utility assistance is one time a year. We can pay the utility bill or wood, propane, oil. We can pay those as well. I know Shafter probably doesn't have that, but some of the more mountainous regions, we're doing propane and wood, that type of stuff. But they can come through and pay one utility bill. A lot of clients will usually do it towards the end of summer, and then that way it's their larger bills. I know right now we have a moratorium, so we're a little bit slower than we normally would be given our climate here in the nice hot Central Valley. But as everybody knows, that moratorium is going to be up at some point. And when that moratorium is up, they are going to be starting to look for those bills. And they're going to, I'm sure they will have payment plans and deferred payments and that type of stuff to try to make it as easy as possible. But we're trying to remind people that, just because it is a moratorium doesn't mean that that number stacking up on your PG&E paper every month isn't going to have to come due. So we can pay that. The other thing right now is we have a couple of smaller grants. Right now we have, when they passed the CARES Act, part of that money through the CARES Act actually went to the states for this exact reason. So we have a second source of funding to be able to help with utility assistance as well. To help people pay people's bills, where we can do it partial payment under CARES and under our normal LIHEAP dollars. So we can kind of double dip right now, which is kind of nice. We're trying to make it to where we can pay 2 or 3 different times on some people and try to make it a little bit easier, especially with so many being on unemployment right now. That's one of the qualifiers for the CARES side. So some people who didn't normally qualify under income with regular UA and LIHEAP can now qualify under CARES. And then really the big side is on weatherization. We'll come out to the house, we'll do a home assessment, we'll check all the appliances, we'll do a full home check, a tightness check, we'll check the ducts if the house has AC, and then we'll come out, we'll see what the house qualifies for based on our state guidelines, and then we will replace everything for free, no cost to the customer. We'll pull whatever permits if we're replacing, you know, air conditioners and that type of thing. And we'll come out there and, you know, like ESOP programs with the with energy companies, you know, you're doing light bulbs, you're doing weather stripping, you're doing some of that stuff to kind of help drop some of the energy burden, but we're also trying to do some quality of life things. So we can replace refrigerators, we can replace stoves, ovens, cooktop units. We can do the any kind of heating and cooling, we can replace those. If they have a window AC, we can do that. Under very, very limited possibility scenarios, we can do some fuel switching if we have to. But it's really just trying to raise a little bit of the quality of life while also trying to drop monthly burden on people's energy bills. We'll do insulation, we'll come up there and do insulation, we'll seal the house up, and it really just kind of depends on what that house and home needs, and we'll go through and work there. Owners of homes, renters of homes, it doesn't matter. So if they're renting or if they have a mobile home or a multi-unit, then we can come through and do single units. It's a pretty good program.
Great.
So if
Thank
there's
you,
any
Todd.
other questions, we can go over that, but yeah, pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, it seems like you offer a lot, and what I'm hearing from you and from the Great Alternatives, picking up that phone is, you know, is very important because that's your starting point, and you go from there. Okay, so some of the suggestions are coming in the chat box. How can we better promote these programs? Thank you for providing these suggestions. Continue thinking about what else can we do to outreach to the community and let them know about various programs that, yes, we need to learn a lot about it in each individual program, but also picking up the phone and getting connected with the representatives where they can help you to walk through all the steps is very important. I want to connect with our Spanish-speaking participants to see if they have any more questions, either for Todd or all three presenters. And I'm looking at Anna.
Okay, no Spanish questions. Sí, y le podemos ayudar con eso. Yeah, no questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other quick questions, one or two questions from the committee members, or perhaps suggestions about increasing outreach and promoting these programs? And some of the materials are on the line, including flyer from the Great Alternatives. Some of the suggestions coming out in the text box, Nextdoor app, mailers. This is all great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Hannah, before I go, can I just reiterate that there have been a lot of complaints from the San Joaquin Valley about solar fraud. And so there's a lot of companies going to people's homes, and especially Spanish-speaking homes, claiming that they are giving people free solar. And so we've been dealing with that issue. If anybody has dealt with that problem, I'm happy to help them file a complaint. If they have, you know, received solar and were told it was free, but then later on found out they had debt on their home, on their mortgage, or anywhere else, please contact us.
Great.
Yeah,
thank you for
can I add something to that, Sarah?
Yes.
So we get the same thing with CapK. We'll get people call us periodically where they're trying to pose as some of our workers. They're trying to come into a house saying, hey, I'm with CapK. We're going to, you know, work on this. We're going to work on that. Some people aren't real sure, you know, did my landlord do it? Are they just here? Our program, as well as PG&E's ESOP program, anybody that comes into the house to work has to have a shirt that is branded and has to have a badge on. So it's one of the things that you might just want to remind the community that if they have somebody come in like that, or they didn't remember that they had something on the schedule, then just call in and verify. It's an easy phone call to make, to call our office and say, hey, I have a crew here saying it's you guys. And we can either verify and say yes or say no, anything like that. But they should all have a shirt on that clearly is branded and says if they are working for an energy company or if they're working for us. And they will all have a badge name with number that they have to have visible, and the clients have a right to take their name and call in if they have any issues. So I know it happens with elderly a lot. So along the same thing with the fraud, just watch out for that.
Great, thank you. I think, Jessica, maybe what would be helpful in the follow-up email to get all this contact information, all these phone numbers in one email. And in this.
Yep. We will follow up and send an email. We will physically attach everything and show you the location where everything is on our site. We can even link directly to the program sites, and then give you all that contact information, because that is what we promised. And I think just hearing kind of what the next steps are for each of these programs is to reach out. And so we will give you all the tools and to enable you to do that. Great.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to thank to all our presenters. Thank you for joining this committee meeting. Bertha, Todd, Sarah, thank you for your time. We've learned a lot. Okay, let's move to our next agenda item, which is SERP measures tracker. I know the area district has been working very hard to put a document you can follow along and get the status updates at any time of the day.
Yes, so I will start just quickly, and I'll share my screen briefly, and then I will pass it along for some more specific information to Todd DeYoung. But I just wanted to let you all know that we have posted a tracker that's going to be on the main chapter page, so it won't be buried. I think a lot of our stuff tend to be per meeting. This is a tracker that we have in English and in Spanish to track the progress of every single measure that's in the SERP. And so it's a lot of information, but the idea here is that in one fell swoop, you can see based on the type of measure, the measure number and description as is written in the SERP, some details about what we wrote or what we wanted to accomplish in the SERP at the time, although we know that we're kind of moving forward and working on how we're going to implement that. And then a status update as of the date of publication of this, as to where the district or the other agency partners are at with implementing. So of course, I'm not going to have time, or we won't have time to go measure by measure. I will let Todd speak a little bit to the high level, sort of where we're at for the incentives, but take your time. Please take a look at this and give us feedback. We will, in a follow-up email, solicit sort of any feedback from you on if this is a useful tool. We've put links to if there was a recent presentation. An example is one of our measures was to enhance enforcement of wood burning curtailments in the wood burning season in the winter. And recently we provided enforcement actions that outlined what some of that enforcement looked like, including that for that particular measure. So this is certainly a place that we're hoping that sort of links everything together. We know we've talked about a lot of stuff, but then of course, as we move forward, this will be a place to know maybe where certain incentives measures are and how we're moving forward with that. So to talk kind of specifically about the incentive stuff, I'll pass it now to Todd.
Thank you, Jess. My name's Todd DeYoung, the Director of Grants and Incentives at the Air District. Just wanted to give you kind of a brief update on what's been happening in terms of the SERP measure incentive program development and how we're moving forward. As we've talked about in past meetings, the SERP, the funding piece that goes along with the SERP is tied to the Community Air Protection Program guidelines. This is a set of CARB guidelines that's based essentially on some existing district programs, the Carl Moyer program and some other existing incentive programs. And what the CAP guidelines also include for programs that don't fit within the CAP guidelines, there's a process that we need to take these programs through to get them approved so that we can spend this state money on these particular CERP measures. A lot of our CERP measures that have been identified in the Shafter CERP actually fall into that bucket where we need to take them through this process of getting them approved by CARB because they're outside of the norm, outside of the existing CAP guidelines. And so we're working on a number of these measures right now. In fact, we've got about 12 or 13 that are in process right now that we're working with CARB on getting approved. Those include, obviously, the first few are very high priority items that we've identified from the committee over time in the various priority exercises that we've gone through. And those include, obviously, the wood burning devices through our existing burn cleaner program and getting that program approved for CAP funding. Is one of the high priorities that we're working on. In fact, we're about ready to submit that to CARB for their final review. We're just taking a final look at an analysis of including the natural gas to electric heat pump component that was alluded to and documented in the ARB resolution that accompanied the CERP approval. So we're taking a look at that right now and hope to have that done fairly quickly. The other ones that we're looking at right now and are under development are the residential lawn and garden that include essentially free lawnmowers, free electric lawnmowers to residents of Shafter. The commercial lawn and garden component that allows sort of the commercial landscape maintenance companies to replace their equipment with electric equipment. Some ag measures are alternatives to ag burn measure, which is basically chipping and shredding of ag material instead of burning it. And our low dust nut harvester replacement component is also underway. Right after that, in the priority level, we're looking at truck replacements with zero and near zero emission technology. Our tune in and tune up program, there's a commitment for some focused outreach and specific weekend events within the city of Shafter that we're looking at. Obviously, we're changing our approach recently with COVID-19. We're not able to actually conduct weekend events in the tune in tune up program at this time, but we're looking at alternate methods, and we've got alternate methods of implementing that program that we'd like to discuss with the committee. And then we're looking at other things like electric yard trucks, diesel ag engine replacement, tractor replacement, and then additional school buses, as we mentioned earlier. We've done a few school bus replacements with electric school buses, but we'd love to do more. So we'd love to connect with any school districts. We've reached out to Richland and we've replaced a few buses there. Kern High School District, I think we've got some applications. We just want to make sure that those buses are actually operating in Shafter. And then if we can get some more applications in those areas, that would be great. So what we're doing in terms of process at this point is as we're submitting these draft programs, excuse me, to CARB for approval, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be posting these on each committee's website so that everybody in the committee can look and see exactly what's been posted and what's being proposed. They follow the CERP measures that are in the CERPs, obviously. So there are really no surprises there. But we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for the committee members to comment on these. It is a very iterative process with ARB. In fact, the first one that we've been working on with the Fresno subcommittee, we've had with ARB since June 10th. And it's not quite approved yet, but we're working through some of the wrinkles there to get that approved. And so we hope the future CERP measure process will go much quicker once we've ironed out some of these issues. So we're going to be posting them on the website, and we're also going to be emailing out a link to everybody in the committee members so that they can go directly, just click on a link from an email and go directly to the spot on the website where these are posted so you can take a look at them. And I think that's about it for my update. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, we're at about 5 o'clock, but let's take 1 or 2 questions about this measure tracker, if you had a chance to look at it. And if you're still just seeing it for the very first time, we encourage you to explore it. And as you're exploring it, let us know if the format is working for you, what can be added, or how's it working for you. I do have a hand from Gustavo. Gustavo, go ahead.
Yes, that's the guy. The tracker, is that something that's currently running at the chapter 617 portal?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I haven't checked that out, but I definitely will. And that tracker, is it more or less tracking like the different strategies that were approved for the SERP? Okay, and then in that, maybe it's a little too early to ask, but is there like kind of like methodology or criteria on how like different metrics are being implemented, and how from point A to point B are we doing? Is that something that's on there? Definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely. And as we're developing the individual measures and submitting them to CARB, they have a lot more detail with each individual measure. So as those emails come out and as those plans get posted on the tracker and on the website, you'll be able to dive into each one of those measures and see exactly what's being proposed.
And Jessica, can you spend 30 seconds talking about the Spanish version of the tracker?
Oh, yeah, my apologies. So yeah, that's certainly going to be a crucial part of what we do. Each one of these obviously is being posted in Spanish and English as well.
Okay, stay tuned. All right, let's move to the wrap up. We're a little bit over time, but before we let you go, one of the ideas proposed by this committee members was to have a larger planning session where we kind of mapping out next 2 to 3 meetings, or perhaps the rest of the year, the committee meetings, monthly committee meetings. And we would like to ask this group if you like this idea or if you have any strong feelings. The intent is to understand the full landscape, how much time we have for the rest of 2020, what are some priorities we need to talk about, in which order we need to talk about, so kind of this large planning session. If you like this idea, use your reactions, give us a thumb up or clap. If you have any considerations, just unmute yourself and share your thoughts with us. I see Angie, Tom is giving thumb up. I don't see everyone. Bianca. Okay, well, I see John. Okay, great. So we'll work with your schedules, calendars, and schedule this larger planning session so we can map out the rest of the year and prioritize everything. Okay, so let's move to the public comments. Heather, do we have any public comments? Oh, Heather, all the public is here. Dear
We do not.
Dear members of the public who joined this committee, do you have any questions or comments? And just go.
I do have a comment. I don't know, do we have to like raise our hand or something?
Go ahead, Bianca. Real brief.
I actually was wondering if it's possible to consider our time for this meeting to be later on the day. We do have a lot of community members that want to participate, but are at work at the moment. And at the moment that these meetings are happening, they're barely getting off of work and not able to participate. So I'm actually wanting to, if we can have a petition going on from community members, if you want, how many members are actually working at the moment that would want to participate in our working.
That's a great point, Bianca. We landed, if you might recall, but maybe it's a good time to reevaluate. When we started virtual meetings, we took a poll on start times and whether or not certain dates and times would work, and that's how we landed on 3 o'clock. but maybe now's a good time to reevaluate. I know things have shifted a lot with COVID impacts kind of shifting and impacting schools and childcare in many different ways as well. So I think that's a good point, and we can certainly reevaluate and see what the best time is.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up, Bianca. Will do. Okay, we have one hand from Ali. Ali, if you can please be brief.
Oh, yes. Hi, my name's Allie Andrews. I joined a little bit late, and I'm sorry if I missed introductions, but I just wanted to pop in here. Gustavo had told me about this meeting. I was really happy to listen. I run a small community solar company based in Fresno, and we're looking for community partners that we might be able to design a community designed and community owned solar project with. So I don't know if this is the right venue to be asking about who might be interested, but I just wanted to put out there. I'll put my info in the chat if anyone wants to follow up.
Great, thank you for that, Ali. I wonder if it would be helpful to connect with the district and include your information in the follow-up email that's going to go out to the committee.
That would be great. Okay,
great. All right, well, we at 5:06, a little bit over time. Sorry about that. Thank you again for all your time, for your contributions, spot on questions. We just love the questions. Thank you. And our next meeting is September 14th via Zoom. We've heard you potentially revisiting times for this meeting, so we'll do another poll or something like that. Stay tuned. Meanwhile, we're scheduled for September 14th at 3 p.m. right now, and we will see you then. Have a great evening, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Good night.
Thank you for joining.
Bye.
Good night. Let's pass the host to Heather to stop Facebook Live, and we can stop recording, Erica.
You have control, I think, for both those. Or actually, no, Erica does.
That's right.
Okay, so we have